Hello, I'm Marlis Arnold, trade show marketing consultant and author of the book, Build a Better Trade Show Image. Welcome to the Trade Show Insights podcast with news, tips, and tools to expand your knowledge of exhibiting. Today, we're continuing our conversation on event technology with industry expert Michelle Bruno. And if you haven't already listened to part 1 of our interview, you'll find a link for that in today's show notes. You're talking about ways beyond just the mobile apps. Let's talk about I've heard just a little bit so far. It doesn't seem to be something that's caught on widespread scale yet. But second screen apps, as far as part of the actual session presentations. Can you talk a little bit about that for us, please?
Yeah. So in probably the last maybe not quite 2 years, I've noticed a number of companies, and second screen technology is how they characterize themselves. Some people would sort of dispute that characterization because second screen can have more than one meaning. But in our environment, a second screen app is one in which the attendee uses their mobile device or in some cases even their laptop and is able to view a PowerPoint presentation that is going on both at the front of the room and on their device in front of them. And then there's other various features with these different companies. So one company doesn't allow you to move around, go forward in the PowerPoint or go back in the PowerPoint. You have to stay specifically on the slide that's being projected at the front of the room. But in exchange, you can take notes, you can do all kinds of things. You can send the speaker questions. There's no more like raising of the hand. You can vote on different, survey questions that the speaker pushes out. So it's really changing the dynamics between the speaker and the audience. And
it's almost merging a live presentation with the webinar technology.
Exactly. In fact, of the ones that I've reviewed, there are even some. So you can imagine, so you're an attendee sitting in the presentation, and you have the entire presentation in front of you, and you can now not only communicate with the speaker, but you can also communicate with your peers. So you have sort of this closed social community that can go around. You can comment, you can share notes, you can do all these things. But there's also another piece. Another company is through a call bridge, allowing people that aren't even in the room using their mobile devices, participate in a live presentation. So they can see everything that people in the room see, and they can hear everything that the speaker is saying in the room. They're not even there. They're somewhere else in the world. And it's that's kind of when you talk about trends, there are lots of ways that the overarching trend is really bringing people that are in remote locations, let's just say in virtual space, merging them with people that are live and in person at the event, and making the event, quote unquote, this sort of merged, seamless, blended experience. So that going forward, event organizers will have to sort of take into consideration the content, the programming, everything they do to appeal not only to the live audience, but also to the virtual audience. And before, it was kind of looked at, I think, as sort of a gimmicky thing, where the event organizer or even exhibitors would just say, well, yeah, I know, we've got social media and we've got all this virtual event stuff and these platforms, so let's just kind of play around with it and make sure that remote attendees can, tune in, and then we have our social media, whatever, DJs or whatever, the moderator people, and it was all kind of cool. But now there's really a business reason to bring all of these people together in this blended experience. And there are a number of apps, not just the second screen guys, but just all the virtual platform iterations that are coming out now that are merging these two environments. So I think that's really exciting.
Well, and it, like you said, it takes the presentation to a whole new level of interactivity because especially with the fact that people can be commenting and asking questions and things, because a lot of people in a whole room full of attendees, they don't want to actually raise their hand and ask a question out loud, but they probably would feel comfortable typing something in. So it's
yeah. So wait till you have that as a speaker. Speaker skills, because I've been a speaker where the organization required that I use a second screen app, and it was great. However, you have to really up your game as a speaker, because not only are you presenting, you've got one eyeball on the screen that's in front of you, the other eyeball on the screen that's behind you. People are sending you questions. You're thinking in your head of where can I fit that question into the content flow, and then you can see that they're talking to each other and they're sharing it on social media, and meanwhile you're getting prompted on Twitter that they're having this conversation. It's
I can imagine.
I got burned out after 20 minutes.
It's challenging enough on a webinar when you're trying to monitor the chat and present the webinar all at the same time. I can't imagine what it's going to be like once it starts coming to the stage. So, yeah.
No, when you're up in front of the room and before all we had to worry about is my slip showing or, my, whatever, piece of toilet paper hanging out of my shoe. Now it's like, is the app running? Is the PowerPoint working? Am I clicking on the right slide? It's just like so much going on now. So what we have to go through to bring these, remote attendees in and bring the audience really into this mindset in the room is going to change drastically, and it'll be both fun but scary.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully the audience will be patient during the learning curve of, getting used to it, because obviously some presenters are going to be able to roll with it a lot better than others are.
Yeah. I found that in my one experience so far, the audience was pretty mesmerized because they hadn't seen it before. So they were sending a lot of questions, and they were kind of just, playing with it, which is what you want. You want them to be engaged in what you're talking about. So I found it a very positive experience, but there's a bit of a learning curve. And the platform that I was using, those individuals were there with me, like literally sitting behind me. So when I goofed up, they could fix it. So it's going to be interesting moving forward. But I loved it. Mm-hmm.
Well, I know another thing, and kind of back into the apps world again, is the whole idea of the networking and matchmaking apps. There's a few of those out there that I've seen, but what do you see coming in that realm?
So there's a lot of different companies trying to figure out how to crack into that space, how to be widely adopted by users. And appeal to event organizers. And so there's different sort of strategies for the developers to, sort of pitch to the organizers that kind of have the ultimate decision on what they let into their trade show environment or not. But, there's a number of questions. So some are using, QR codes, back to the QR codes, where each individual attendee can download a unique QR code, and then they can go around the event and exchange information with other attendees or do different things by taking the QR code on their mobile app and, showing it to the reader, which, could be another mobile device or whatever. So there's all sorts of that sort of networking and matchmaking going on using QR codes. There is matchmaking happening with LinkedIn profiles where, a particular platform is downloaded onto your mobile device, but when you're able to use LinkedIn to find other like minds and people that are interested in the same things that you're interested in at the event by matching keywords on your LinkedIn platforms. So that's happening. There are others that, are just using keywords based on profiles that attendees fill out before the event. So the challenge there is getting them to fill out their personal profiles so that the matchmaking app works. So there's lots of different ways of going about it, but this year when we did the EIBTM Tech Watch, that was the largest category of people with different ways of presenting networking and matchmaking. Mostly on mobile devices, but you know, we had poke in and things where it's not just your mobile phone, but it's actually these little things that are clicked and you know, NFC and all of these things too. Those are still there and doing well. It really depends on the audience, but it's still kind of a big deal, and everyone has a different approach. And it's definitely something that's needed, because you do want to utilize your precious time as an attendee the most efficient way. You want to be networking and connecting with the people that you want to be connecting with. So it's an important piece of the event puzzle, but a lot of different approaches in trying to pull that one off.
Well, and are you seeing it folded into the actual event app itself, or is it usually a freestanding app?
It's both. I'm mostly seeing it as a freestanding app, although a lot of the not a lot of them, but I'm seeing several of the freestanding app matchmaking guides back into the conference guide, space. So you've got, an application that was a freestanding matchmaking app, but they realized that it's really hard and that attendees aren't that interested in downloading multiple apps in order to navigate the event.
Right.
So usually the person with the conference guide app, the directories and the listings and the floor plans, kind of has a lock on the attendee attention span and interest in downloading an app. Mm-hmm. So the newer guys that have the standalones are either backing into that space by adding those other features that the conference guides have, or they're figuring out how to partner with the conference guide application platforms so that their capabilities are now inside that conference guide container.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, because as an attendee, I wouldn't want to have to download 3 or 4 different apps to accomplish everything I want to accomplish at that one conference. So I think the whole idea of bundling makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's hard enough to get attendees to download just the main app for an event. Most people are doing it, in the taxi on the way from the airport to the trade show. And, so that's why they're not entering their profiles in a timely manner, because they did all that other stuff at the last minute. So it just complicates it when then you're saying, okay, well, in addition to that, we want you to download this QR code reader, and then we want to have you download this other, geofencing thing or this whatever. I mean, attendees are already stressed to the maximum degree, and they have attention spans of gnats, mm-hmm. So you're not going to get much traction unless it's all bundled into one, like you download the mother app and it does everything.
Right.
Which is another challenge, because then you're using up battery and, whatever. So
true.
It's going to be an interesting balance going forward.
Well, Michelle, before we wrap up, we've covered so much territory already, but are there any other quick tools or tech that you want to mention?
Well, a lot of the discussion, a lot of the sort of ways that new technology developers are getting the organizers and exhibitors to even listen to their pitch, or add whatever their offerings are into their existing mix, is by putting the word data into it. So mobile app developers, it used to be this sort of experience, and then it was, saving money on printing, and now it's really the data play. A lot of technologies across the board, not just mobile, are talking about how their particular technology allows organizers and exhibitors to capture data. The piece that's missing is what you do with the data after you capture it. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the space where the next piece of innovation has to come. You have to figure out how to look at the data, how to analyze the data, how to feed that data easily and seamlessly into your content marketing or your customer relationship management tool, your Marketos and all those things, Aliquas, and make that data actionable. Otherwise, it's all just a bunch of ones and zeros in a big database somewhere, and you've done a really good job of capturing it, but you don't know what to do with it. So I'm waiting for someone to really help us as an industry understand what we can do with it, how to make the data actionable. Some are kind of scratching at the surface of that. Our winner at EIBTN this year is doing that, Genie Mobile. But there are other, groups that I think have the potential to help us understand data and do something really, really important with it. And I hope there's more. I invite more companies to take a look at that. It's not easy and it's not fun. It's not sexy. So I know why they wouldn't want to do it, but it's something we really need.
Well, but like you said, it extends the usefulness of whatever the app or the technology is past the length of the show itself. I mean, it's
exactly.
If you're using all this great technology to gather data and make the show more useful, but then, like you said, you've got to have a way to incorporate it into your regular ongoing business life as well. So,
well, it's not just using the data to I guess the point is that you can use the data to really fully understand your customers in beyond the 360-degree, perspective. You can understand how and what they do and what they want and how they behave, and to a point where you can deliver them programming and content and exhibitors that meet their very specific needs. And we have never had that ability before. It's been sort of a lot of observation and guesswork up to this point, but now with all the tools that are out there, we can really refine the pool of information that we have on our customers, and I think it's a wonderful thing.
It does. It gives you lots of insight for next year's show and the year after that. So
exactly. Where you're going and where you're going to fail. It's predictive.
Right, and it helps you save money on things that, like you said, would be a total flop because it's not what the attendees are looking for. So
exactly. So do you see how exciting this can be?
Yeah.
We could talk for hours.
You and I get this. Now we just got to make sure that the developers get this so that they create the right kinds of tools.
I think they do. I think in general the developers are the really smart ones. It's the event organizers and the exhibitors that have a lot of constraints around them. And they sometimes look at these new technologies and new ideas as just sort of another thing to put on their plate, another, sales pitch they have to listen to, and they really do need to start listening, whether they go in that direction or not. These guys are seeing trends, they're seeing things happening, guys and women, that as organizers we aren't seeing because and exhibitors, we're stuck in this little, bubble of what we have to do just to make it through the day and the month and the year. And these guys are a fantastic resource of what's coming down, the pipeline. And they need a voice.
And nobody can be an expert at everything, so that's why it's great to have all these other resources to turn to, which is the perfect segue to remind people how to get a hold of you, because you're obviously a great resource for the world of technology to put everything into perspective. Your blog is forkintheroadblog.com, and then your Event Tech Brief newsletter is at eventtechbrief.com. And then you want to tell everybody how to get a hold of you on Twitter?
Absolutely. It's at Michelle Bruno. See, that's the advantage of getting in on Twitter early, right, Marlis?
It is.
You get to have your own name.
It also helps to have an unusual name, right? Rather than
not so unusual. I thank my husband for that because my name before Bruno was Kobolinski. So,
that's
not
a little too unusual and hard to spell.
Yeah, it's not as pretty on Twitter. But anyone can always email me, michelle@brunogroup.com. Anytime. I love to hear from people about their new ideas and also help them move in the right direction where technology is concerned. So
great.
Don't be shy.
Well, and for our listeners, if you have an event technology that you've seen used well, or maybe an idea that you've seen that we didn't talk about today, go ahead and share that in our show notes, in our comments section at tradeshowinsights.com. on this particular podcast episode, and let us know what you're seeing out there and what's working and where it's going from here. So, Michelle, thank you so much for all your wisdom and insights today. We really appreciate it.
Marlis, it has been a delight, and anytime, give me a call.
Trade Show Insights is protected by the Creative Commons copyright license. You may feel free to share this recording with colleagues as long as it is shared in its entirety and is not used for commercial purposes. To learn more, please see the link in the show notes. Well, that's it for this episode of Trade Show Insights. Be sure to check out our show notes at tradeshowinsights.com. Until next time, I'm Marlis Arnold. Thanks for listening.